Hey, Matt.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, it's time for that check-in about our game. Should we do it?
Yeah, let's do it. Game
Doing
dev.
it. Game dev. Bah. All right, welcome everyone to another episode of Hacking the Grepson. We're currently in our second season where we're making a game.
Making a game.
And we're still in the, I mean, not early, but we're still in the just
It's early
kinda-
days.
Yeah, we're messing around, figuring out how to do it. You know, one thing I realized, Matt, just in the past time period that we've been working on this, making a game. That sentence is it's not specific enough. It's way too broad, you know?
Yes.
Like, let's make a game. Like, you could make a game in so many different ways in 5 minutes, in 5 years. And so let's make a game is hard to pin down when you actually start working on the game. And I will say that the last couple weeks have been tough to even work on this project, just amongst all the other things. But even when I did start working on it, because I would say I spent the last few days off and on working with the Defold astronaut tutorial that you worked on. So you took Defold's astronaut tutorial, which is like kind of a 2D overhead, shoot the rocks and make stuff happen. And I expanded what you expanded on, and that's about it. And we'll talk about what I got up to, but that's really all I did. And it feels like I should be doing more, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just being too hard on myself.
Well, I feel like we're still in the learning curve part, right? Right now, we're just trying to get comfortable with the process of making things show up through these game engines. That's, at least for me, that's what I'm getting familiar with the tools. I'm bouncing back and forth between Love2D and Defold. I'm like, I like this over here. I don't like this over here. And then the vice versa, right? In some ways, it reminds me of, I'm teaching my daughter to drive right now, and it reminds me of what my goal is right now for her, as in like the very early days of driving, is I'm just trying to get her comfortable behind the wheel. Like, get that muscle memory going and just comfortable being there, so it's not like every single thing has to be thought about. And so you get some of that. And I'm trying to get myself there with these game engines. Eventually, it's going to be like, I want to put a sprite over there. Boom. Right now, it's like, okay, I need to add a collision object, and like, okay, I have tile source, object. And right. But eventually, that's just going to become second nature. Like, I know what they are. I'm already starting to see. I made some changes to something today, and I did it way faster than last time I'd gone in. But like, making the actual game part is still. I have on my whiteboard like how I was going to do my proof of concept for the Metroid slingshot thing. Mm-hmm. And I got one step of that done. And it's not
right.
good.
I just remembered what our goal from last time was, to actually have a game that the other person could play. And
I didn't get there either.
Yeah, I didn't get there. No. I mean, I made progress, but I did not finish something that I can be like, Matt, here, play this.
I will show you the two things that I worked on and what I did and did not like about each of them.
Okay. Do you want to go first, and then I can show you what progress I made?
Yeah. Here, why don't we bounce back and forth? I'll do one of the things. I'll do the Defold side, because I think that's the place you were playing around in as well, right?
I did, yeah.
And I did very little there.
Okay.
But I'll show you the parts that I liked about it, and then do your part, and then I'll show my Love2D part where I did a little bit more, but I'm less happy with the results, but it does more.
Okay.
It looks worse. It acts better, and it was harder to do. But I did use AI to do quite a bit of it, because I realized that's how I'm doing a lot of coding these days. So why not lean into that and just see, can I do this well, like using Claude? And the answer is sort of, but
like what percentage of the coding is Claude at this point?
I have been letting it like generate like the initial thing, and then I go in and muck with it. So I'll be like, okay, I want a thing that'll do this, right? And I'm realizing that's the wrong level to approach it. I need to start approaching it as, like, what would I do first? Okay, I'd write a class that did X, Y, Z. I'm just going to start telling it, make me a class that does this. I'm going to really break it down into the smallest level so that it's architected and organized the way I want. But, like, it takes off that kind of, like, the learning curve bit of it a little bit. And then I can just jump in and do things. Because now that I've played around with it, I'm like, okay, here's the part I really don't like about Love2D. But I really do like how well Claude can generate code for it. So, like, there's a balance to be struck there.
And you would
vibe
say
coding it is not working.
But you're using Claude both in Love2D and Defold, since they both use Lua.
I've used it a little bit in Defold. In Defold, it tends to be like something's not working the way I want. Where's my logic wrong? And it's helping me find that kind of stuff. I don't love the way it's writing either of the code pieces. So there's still more to do. So let me show you the Defold one. I know this is great for an audio podcast.
Well, that's why we keep talking. We do commentary while this is happening.
Yes, commentary. Okay. All right. We are going to. I'll show you Defold first.
Okay. Defold.
You should be able to see this blob.
Look at that blob. It's a little green blob. I love it.
Having trouble. It turns out I don't have as many sprites for like characters as I thought I do. There are a lot more like environments. So it took me a while to find one that I liked. The initial version of the sprite sheets I had were nope. It's
So I just want to pause for a second and point out what you named your project, because I'm not sure how to pronounce it, and I want you to pronounce it.
Metroid Angria.
Metroid Angria. Okay, this
is Angry Birds and Metroid.
Right. Okay.
I was gonna call it Angry Droid, but I didn't like that as much.
No.
Angdroid?
Like mad robot.
Or like Metroid Birdia. I don't know. I just needed a name. How do I open these? Okay. I was using a sprite sheet that I did not like, that I really liked, but I had so much trouble getting both Defold and Lua to understand how to like parse it up and use it, because the sprites were variably sized. And
yeah, I don't think you can do that. At least not
I
easily.
expected that. No, not easily. I expected it to be handled better than it was, and like in Defold, I thought it would be smarter. Like maybe I could drag the squares around or like something, and it just wasn't. And in Love2D, I was able to come up with a mathematical formula for figuring out how to parse it up for like the first half before it got too variable, but never worked. So this morning, before we hopped on, I switched over to using this little slime, this little slimy guy, Slime Buddy. And I put him into a game that already existed. I took out the sprite that was there and put this guy in because I wanted to play around with how to set up animations and whatnot. So let me just share that. So, so I've got the game collection, right? This kind of came built in.
This is the 2D platformer and Defold tutorial.
Yeah. So you can see my little sprite.
Oh, yeah. You got a little jelly guy.
Right. And I brought, and otherwise it's basically the same thing. But it was a different size sprite, so I was playing around like, okay, I scaled it up by 2x, and how do I create the animations? And I was able to figure it out. The fun part of the thing I do like in the player, the ability to create the animations and just be like, and then see them. Oh, I suppose one that actually moves would help. So like, here's the idle animation.
Oh, hey, that's awesome. Somehow I never
left
noticed that.
And walk right. You have to hit space to make it show up.
Oh.
Yeah, and then like I'm jumping, I'm
this
falling.
is-
Why does
so this
this
is
keep changing the name?
This is the tile source.
Yeah,
So like
this
for
is
astronaut-
this is the blob sheet dot tile source. Yes, and that lays out the individual things. I'm not sure I like this particular tile sheet because it doesn't have enough variety. The other one had a bunch of variety, which is what I liked about it. Like the slime like stretched, and I was trying to, and so like it looked cooler when it was jumping, but I haven't gotten there. But it just was so messy to try to get it there. So I dropped him in and then set up some animations. Yeah, so that's about all I did. I mostly was playing around with like dealing with sprites is much easier in Defold than it is in Love2D, but I think I can make it just as easy, minus some of the graphical part, fairly easily in Love2D, which might push me that direction. It's a lack of control that like Defold has just enough control, but not enough where I it's not quite in the sweet spot. It's just enough that annoys me that it doesn't do certain things, and some of the things it does do them not the way I want them done. And so it's just enough to annoy me a little bit. But yeah, that's what I worked on the Defold side. I'll show you the Love2D after you go.
Okay. So yes, this is the astronaut tutorial that I have renamed Wharf Quail because that is my favorite 2-word phrase lately. I don't know why. I wanted to change everything about it so that it would be more like that, like actually have like the tiles around the side be water and be your and have your character be a quail and not an astronaut. But honestly, that's like a discipline that's like outside of strict programming game dev. That's like art direction and art design. And
right, like I mean, I said how much time I spent just trying to get sprites to work the way I want it. Now that I have it working, I'm like, okay, I can do this going forward. It is way easier to create a level in Defold than it is in Love2D. I will say, because you have the graphical editor, and that might ultimately be the thing that lets it win. I'm not sure yet.
I'm gonna reshare because I want to share the actual running game because that's where the new stuff comes. Okay, so now you should see the astronaut moving around in his space. Yes, but I added sound effects because for me, like I said before, if I don't know how to do the lower level technical stuff, I love doing the meta parts of projects, and so I didn't get to like making a title screen and press space to begin.
You'll have way more fun with that than I will because I don't.
I really do. Like
I'll have opinions on how they should work, but I don't like doing them.
I gravitate naturally towards doing that kind of stuff. So yeah, I added sound effects, which I wanted to say that what I used to make the sound effect for this.
I don't hear anything, by the way.
Oh, well, sorry. It's making a little pew pew sound. Pew, pew, pew. And when it hits one of the bricks, it makes kind of like a crunchy sound, like kaboom. Now, I made all these sounds in this app that I've used in the past that's really popular called BFXR, which is, I think, like a recreation of an original app that someone made for some other platform, but at least it works on Mac OS, and it just allows you to create sound effects really quickly by just using like simple waveforms. And it has presets for making like a laser sound, a pickup sound, a hit sound, a jump sound. And so you can go in there and you can just hit random until you get something that sounds good, and then you can edit all the attributes, frequency, ADSR, all that, which waveforms it uses, all that kind of. So I made all those things in there because I've used it before, and it's a really quick way to make quick sound effects. So, but now the main things that I added to this is that now when you destroy a brick, it creates a gem.
Oh, look at that!
Which I modeled off another thing that was in this tutorial and just changed the color. And also, you'll see at the bottom right.
Yeah, because that's very clearly the projectile that gets shot out, but pink.
Exactly, it's the projectile, but it's purple. It's different, Matt. So, and when you pick it up, it makes a sound effect.
And it makes a little particle effect.
It does a particle effect, which I did not create myself, but I stole from another tutorial. There's a side-scrolling like space shooter, and it has that particle effect, which is cool because Defold just has that. Like you can make a particle effect item and attach it to something and say,
it has like some built-ins. That's really fun.
It basically has like an emitter and a radial like part of this, and so you can say like what kind of color it emits, how long it takes, how long it lasts, where it starts, where it moves to when it's done. And so I just added that to this, and now when you pick it up, it plays that, and then you can see in the bottom right I've now picked up 2 gems.
Whoa.
And then when you pick up 5 gems,
a door.
It plays another cool sound effect, and it opens up this door up here, which does nothing because I didn't get that far. But the idea
he's too big for the door. He can't go through it.
He's also too big for the door, yeah. But the idea is that he'll go through the door, it'll open, and it will take you to the next level. The other thing I wanted to mention about the door is that I also had an issue finding assets. I was like, I need an asset for a door, and it needs to be 64 by 64 because that's what all of these tiles are. And I couldn't find one. So when I couldn't find one, I could have gone and made one with AI, but I thought, you know what? No, what I'm going to do is I'm going to instead use another web app that I made years ago called Sketchage, which I will also share with you so you can see this real quick. And it is a pixel editor.
Oh, that's nice. That'll be useful.
Yeah.
There are a bunch of sprite tools out there, but I haven't liked any of the ones I've tried so far.
There are, believe me, and this one is not amazing, but it was someone a long time ago made a very simple version of this, and I was like, "Ooh, that's cool." I could
simple is what I want for this kind of thing. They're always super complex, and I'm like, I
expanded it, and so this is Sketchage, and you can change the color, and you can do like this, and if you want to grab this color again, so that you can start using that. You can do that. You can also have an eraser. It's very simple. All it's doing is changing the CSS background color to what this is, and erasing just changes it back to white. But there's also a fill tool, which was
That's what I was going to ask. Okay.
I had to spend a couple hours fixing this because the fill tool and the eyedropper tool were broken, and I didn't realize it because I haven't updated this thing in forever. So I fixed that, and then also you can export this, which uses a plugin that changes this to a bitmap, and every time you change this, you can save new versions. So if I then do this, and I'm like, yay, export, and then I do this, yay,
cool.
export. You could make a simple animation, and if you right-click on this, you can save the image as a bitmap. And then I changed that bitmap to a PNG, and then I added it to the tile source that this game already came with as like tile 8 and 9. But I just wanted something to put in the game as a placeholder. And so I made it in Sketchage and exported an open and a close, and then I added it to the tile. And then in the code, I said, if you get 5 gems, set the tile at like 10-0 to this tile, and so it looks like a door.
Yeah.
It's just that then we get into the issue I had when I was originally making the gem thing, is that I couldn't pick up the gem because I didn't realize that the astronaut doesn't start with a collision object. So it had no idea that it was touching anything else. So once I gave it a collision object, then as long as the gem and the astronaut were on the same collision layer, then you can use Defold's awesome thing, like if this thing sends I've been collided with something, do something. And so that's how I got it.
Definitely has a collision layer because I changed it so that only his feet collided and not his head, so that it could walk like on the back row without like if you look when he walks along the back row, his head is like over the wall. So I don't. Maybe it wasn't on the right layer though. Like maybe you were putting the gem on a new layer, and so you had to have a collision for that, or I don't know. Or you erased
I'm not sure.
It. Things are.
But as soon,
I erased a collision object by accident this morning, so it's not that hard to do.
Okay. I mean, all I know is that I went into the astronaut and I gave it a new collision object, and
Which isn't too
then
bad.
it started
Did you
picking
do
up
a
the gem.
sphere or a square?
I did a box, and then I just elongated it to include most, if not all, of the astronaut. And then so
I wish it would let me stretch the circle. Like when you make a sphere, I want to stretch the box. I don't want it to be a perfect circle. I want to
you want it to be like an ellipse.
Yeah, but what they want you to do instead is like multiple things, and then like that's the collision object is the total. So you'd have like for my blob, he's not actually circular. He's a little bit rounder, and so what it really wanted me to do was put another circle like on each side of it, as well as the big one in the middle.
Oh, I see.
And I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
So I just shrank. So I scaled the blob so he was narrower. I gave him a diet.
You know, this is the kind of stuff, like this nitty gritty stuff is it's tedious, and it's hard to figure out the first time, like you said. But once you have like the muscle memory of doing it once and you kind of get it, then making new objects with collision objects and all that, and all the interactivity is easy. But that first one that you don't really understand, like, I mean, I just spent a lot of time looking at the other tutorial and bringing in stuff that worked, because I'm like, okay, it works over here. How do I make it work over here when these things are virtually identical, but obviously not 100%? And then I just keep messing with it until it works. And then somehow through that osmosis, I'm like, oh, I understand why it works, and then I can implement it on a novel concept. But until, like, I that's generally how I work with this kind of stuff, is I need a working example, and then I want to study why does that work there, and then why doesn't it work over here, and then slowly make them the same, and then use that as knowledge in the future. I don't know. I do that a lot.
Yeah.
So
I like the way it generally seems to that Defold generally seems to be able to handle the intersection with like the transparency. So I noticed on the last image you were showing me, the astronaut had some red around it. Mm-hmm. Like your box covered was larger than the astronaut itself, but I assume that he doesn't collide like before he hits things. So it's still using, which is nicer than some of the other ways that it does it.
I think this collision object idea is one of the biggest selling points of something like Defold over something like Love2D. Like having
Love also
visual-
has collision objects.
Oh, but does it have? But it doesn't have a visual representation with properties that you can tinker with until it looks right.
Exactly. That's the big sell, right? Like, and it's easier to do all this stuff in Defold. It's also harder to do certain things in Defold, which I don't love.
Well, let's kick it back over to what you did in Love2D because I'm curious.
All right, so I generated half of this and made the other half. You will notice that my little blob, it's the same blob from the other one. He floats upon the land. I don't know why he won't. I don't know why he won't sit down. Like he's hovering or something.
Okay.
But this uses the slingshot to maneuver.
Well, that's cool.
So that's what I've been playing.
He's the
with.
projectile, basically.
He is the projectile, exactly. So what I want to do is then like make it so that you can pick up a thing so that you could double jump, which technically you can already do. But I want to make it so when you click, it stops moving for a second. I technically have, because I haven't turned it off, the ability to double jump. I also need to put in a background so I can tell when I do that, when I like jump off the screen, how high I am. And then there's something that doesn't quite work with the...
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah,
and I haven't been able to figure out
pulling the
why.
slingshot. Oh, you're holding on.
No, I'm clicking really rapidly, and it's like, but it's not getting the power it should because it's doing it from when I initially clicked, but I wanted to do it from the center of the blob. So somewhere in there, my calculation is wrong, and then I need to figure out how to fix the hovering system. I also think I might scale them up.
You want the player to be able to slingshot in the air.
Eventually, I want that to be one of the power ups, right?
Okay.
Or maybe, like you do this and like you click drag and then it slows down, right? So kind of the effect that this looks like if you held on, it would be kind of cool if it was like just it decreased gravity or like it increased thrust upward or something, just like slightly. And it's a lot of tweaking numbers. Drawing this line I think is a lot easier in Love2D than it's going to be in Defold. But I do have that working, right? Like when you click the astronaut on yours.
It works.
Yeah, okay. So I have done it. So I just need to take that logic that I did over there and bring it in to that other thing, and then I'll have this. But I keep running into this problem of the gap underneath my sprite. I have the same. If I go back over to my I
mean, is that because
also you can fall forever, which is what happens here. I don't have. It doesn't. There's no like
boundaries.
total. Yeah, it needs to have like a you died. Why? Oh, and you'll notice this like frame 1, frame 2, frame 3. You were talking earlier about how we don't have visual tools. I had to create this because I kept being off on my boundaries and I couldn't tell why. So I had to like have it show me things up there. And you can see my position. I am falling forever. Eventually that'll overflow, I'm pretty sure.
Actually, you bring up an interesting thing with the position there, because I think Defold does it more like a standard XY axes where it starts in the bottom left 0, 0, and at least with tile maps, and everything that is like up and down is like, like to the right would be positive X and up would be positive Y, whereas you were falling, but your Y was increasing, not subtracting, because I think
because Y is I
don't know
why it goes up
and
as
goes
you go
down.
down.
Yeah, I mean, well, you think that would be something that like everybody would generally agree on, but apparently not. So going back and forth between these two things, you have to keep that in mind.
So like here's my going back to the Defold one, right? You see my little blob, and he's kind of like in the ground a little bit.
A little bit.
Because otherwise he was floating above it. But it has this problem where if I jump and I hold to the left, he kind of climbs the wall.
He climbs the wall. It's like his sprite is getting stuck in the wall.
Yeah, and I can't figure out why. So if I show you the slime buddy, what is he called? Player? This is his collision object. Is this little tiny circle right here? Oh, it's a little bit bigger than that. Yeah, no,
is that
that's
the problem? Yeah, you need to make
it
bigger.
But if I make it bigger so that it actually, encompasses him, right?
Yeah, let's see what happens.
You see, he's well within the bounds, except for like a little bit around the edges on the side here. But if I do this, he's floating. Why is he floating? I don't know.
I don't see the floating, by the way, because I only see the editor.
Oh, stupid thing.
Yeah.
I want it to automatically switch to the active window. That would be what I want.
That would be awesome. I agree.
All right. So he's floating. See? And I don't know why. Whoops. What did I just do?
Yeah, no, I saw it, but I don't understand why.
So that's where I got stuck right before the call. But he doesn't. And I also can't get up against the wall now, right? So there's some like buffer around the collision object or something, and I don't. That's the part where I don't get it.
But it
Something is
seems
being mistranslated.
fixable. Yeah, like that should be.
But
there's a padding or something.
I was able to scale up this object. So, right when I bring him in, if I look at the sprite, no, not the sprite, the player. So there's a scale object. You can scale the object, and I shrink it on its x-axis and increase it on its y-axis. And so I'm wondering if maybe there's something about the scaling is also off. But then there's also these boxes, and I don't
what are
know
those
what these
boxes.
I don't know because they're not in here
either.
anywhere. I think one of them one of them's the camera. So like maybe I need to shrink that or something. And then there's this other thing, and I haven't been able to figure out what that is yet. This other box.
Yeah, so I wanted to point out the difference that I've found between these two tools in that, they're both super powerful, but I think, like we said before with Love2D, is that you're sort of, they definitely give you the tools you need to figure out how to do the things that Defold kind of already has set up, because it's all based on like make these game objects and then add things to them and tweak their properties. Whereas with Love2D, it's, it starts you with primitives like, make a line, make a square, make a circle. And if you want to add an image, like a sprite, like you're looking at here with your little green guy or with the astronaut guy, all of the properties that you're messing with, like the tile height and the spacing and border and all that kind of stuff, you kind of come up with more on your own in Love2D, whereas Defold just throws all this stuff from the get-go and then you tweak it. So it's like you have to understand it. It's almost like they give you potentially too much stuff to worry about that maybe you understand or maybe you don't, and it could be a little overwhelming. It could be like,
yeah,
it's like thinking about the same issue but in two different ways and from two different directions. And that's something that I find when I'm in Defold is that I'm still spending time trying to figure out just how to organize my files, like adding a sound. Like that means I have to add an actual file to the directory, but it's not just adding the sound. You also have to add a sound object and then associate it with that file. And you have to make sure that sound object is like part of an existing game object, which then has to be part of your collection. And if you don't do one of those things, it won't work. And you'll think like, wait, why doesn't my sound play? Like I say sound.play my sound. Oh, but you didn't make it a part of a game object, or that game object is not in your collection. Or like one of the things I was going into with the gems is I'm using Defold's factory idea. So I have a gem factory file, which basically says like when the rock gets to a certain status, use the gem factory to create
Make a new one. Right.
Yeah, and that's how like you can keep track of all of a specific type of object you have and like how many there are, how many you've spawned, what each of their what each of their properties is, like which ones have been, collected or not collected. And that's just like a much more high level idea of like how you can organize your game. It's just sometimes I feel like it's almost too much to keep track of, and I spend a lot of time in the minutia of organizing my Defold project and not just in the actual like how do I make a cool thing happen.
Yeah,
so
and that's kind of where I'm running into the problem. I'm like, there's something off about this.
I'm watching Matt like play with his little slime jelly guy and stretch him out to ridiculous.
I'm just trying to find something
proportions.
that will let it not hit. Like I managed to shrink it so that it knows the size of the sprite is more accurate. Why it's not a square? Oh, because I'm shrinking it, because I'm scaling it weird is a thing. But like it's got too much underneath it. Even though so hard to remember which things to click on in this. There's so many.
Yeah.
Like you said, there's images, there's tile sources, there's
Tile
atlases,
maps.
there's tile maps. Yeah. So this little like floaty bit underneath it, I think I don't want.
I mean, it looks like it's part of the tile. I mean, you can see it in the tile.
Yeah.
It's like you need to shrink it so it's closer to that, except maybe not that small.
But see, but then but it's still floating when I do that. So that's
Oh, really?
clearly not what it is, right? So something is making it float, and I don't know what. And that's where I get stuck here, where I'm not stuck the same, although I am now, over in Love2D. But Love2D, I feel like I have more access to exactly what's going on because I can like edit it in.
I mean, I think the thing is that like you have as much control and access over your assets in Love2D as you make.
Yes.
Because you're writing the code to mess with it. Whereas in Defold, you create a sprite and it just gives you a bunch of properties that you didn't make, but that you can tweak and that it has a bunch of defaults for. And they all manipulate it in some way that you may or may not understand yet because you didn't write them all.
Right. I do wonder if like the background is not actually clear, but it's got to be.
The background of the sprite, you mean?
Yeah. So like, it shows that grayness around it when I highlight. Oh, this is my favorite thing though, is it tells you what tile it is. Makes it so much easier to figure out what you're doing. In Love2D, it's all math. It's like, but
Yeah.
I'm just going to make a class that makes it be like tile X, I really want to be able to say X by Y and just go to that one because I don't want to call this tile 64. I want to call it 4-8 or whatever number that would be, 410. So that it goes to that, or 39 really, because I want to call that one 00.
Well, I'm assuming you would want to refer to it by like a label, not a
Even
number.
better. Well, I mean,
like
I think what it is
4 or something.
So like this one, that's exactly what I want to do. But like tile sheet, don't want you to open over there.
Yeah. Anything in
tile
assets
sheet,
is going to open. Yeah.
I want to be able to name these by like brown square or see how all these things have little like white lines around them. Those don't show up.
Oh,
I think
that
they're
is
like
interesting.
So there's some sort of mapping on top of this, but I don't understand it. So there's some piece I'm missing, and I don't know precisely what it is.
What's the difference between a tile map and a tile source?
The tile map is an actual like arrangement of tiles, right? Like I'm saying, put these tiles in these locations. The tiles themselves, how do I make this go away? I don't want to click anything.
Great question.
The tile itself, right, this is the tile source. It's what I would call the sprite sheet.
Yeah.
But like I want to know where these magical lines are coming from in this. It's got to be some auto thing that it's doing. That's making the like boundaries based on the alpha channel and some amount of like polygon math, right? It's like this good enough where if you get within that bound, you picked it up, right? If I touch this corner of the puzzle piece, I have it now, I guess. But this is where I get confused, and this is probably like gaming 101 or something for most people. Like game design 101. And I'm like, this is the part I don't know anything about. I just want to draw shapes on the screen. Like, draw me a circle here. I fling it across. Okay, later, that circle, instead, make it this sprite. I want it to be that simple.
Yeah. Once again, like Defold is really it's opinionated. It's opinionated about how you are to make a game, and their tutorials are using sprites and sprite sheets and tile maps because that's how they think you're going to make it, and not using primitives like you might want to. Because and that's something that like is like, well, maybe use Love2D if that's the kind of graphical style you want to go for, if you want everything to be represented that way. I mean, to go back to that game I mentioned before that I've still been playing, that Mars First Logistics game where you build rovers on Mars. The whole thing is, as far as I can tell, it's not using any sprites. It's all like 3D generated, but it all looks like vector math based. So like it's making all the graphics, like the wheels on your rover are not 3D. They're 3D models that are being generated like through math. They're vector images. They're not sprite bitmap images. And so that means they scale amazingly well. So you can zoom in and out, no problem. You can create new objects with code, not with a image editor, at least not like a bitmap image editor. And so that's a completely different way to go about making the graphics for a game than what we're doing in Defold right now with these sprites. It's like, yeah, it's almost like you have to make that decision that you want to make your game that way, and they each probably have their own pros and cons. You know,
I'm sure they do.
I mean, this brings up a good question. Now that we've both kind of messed with sprites a bit in both of these tools, like, is this the way we want to go? Even, I don't know. I mean, I haven't really messed around with any other type besides the primitives and the sprites. Like, I haven't tried, a vector-based graphical system, but I've never done that, so I don't know how easy or hard that would be.
Yeah, I don't know. I need to figure out like the difference, like what's going on with like if I shrink
guy go crazy.
If I shrink the hitbox, if I shrink the hitbox, I can make him not float. But then he starts colliding with the walls. And I don't. So it's like, I feel like the hitbox should be like that. Mm-hmm. But then he's floating again. And he's hitting the walls. But if I make it like this, which is too big, he's super floating and still hitting the walls. So there's some weird thing where the collision object isn't working the way I think it should. And I guess that's okay, but obviously not what I want for an actual game.
Yeah. I think it at a certain point it has to be good enough for you to at least move on to the next part, because this feels like something you could shave for a long time. I mean, it needs to be done, like, because you want the pixels to make sense and how they collide with the environment. Like it will look super amateurish if it doesn't look right, and people will tell immediately.
Exactly.
And yeah, so
I was just jumping around in the game after I changed the hitbox, and he jumped through the floor somehow.
Excellent.
So I think the hitboxes on the tiles are wrong, and that's causing the collisions with the sprites to be wrong. Like they're off by a little bit or something. I think maybe, right? and that's the problem.
This is what you get for not using perfectly square cubes as your avatar.
Clearly.
If you try to make any non-simple geometric shape be something you control or that it has to interact with the environment, you're going to have a bad time, apparently. Well, another thing we haven't even talked about is that when you start one of these Defold tutorials, they all have this library called built-ins.
Yeah.
Which a lot of these things are using parts of. That, I started to look into that today just to see what's in there. And there's a lot of stuff in there that I don't quite understand, but it's like really basic foundational camera and, display of things in the game that, like textures and whatnot. But that's not something we are being forced to write at this point, But I mean, right. I'm thinking in a Love2D world, you would be writing a lot of that stuff. You would not have all these built-in things. I mean, even just the 2D platformer that you're showing me that I worked on before, the main script that just displays the level and moves the guy around, like, has a lot of boilerplate stuff just to make sure, that the avatar stays in the boundaries and jumps properly and falls properly, and
yeah,
that,
and it's
like
like
figuring
how
that
the
stuff out by
animations
myself
work
would have taken a lot longer.
But I like the way I do like the way it's set up in Defold, where it's basically a class. Player.script is essentially, what do you do with each, what can the player do, right? The player object, and it's got handle obstacle contact. I bet this is the place where I would need to make a change so it actually doesn't hit the wall. There's research to be done.
But this is, as we are finding, this is what making a game means, is understanding. I mean, I will reiterate that Defold gives you a lot of the basic foundational stuff to get a character in an environment moving and colliding with things in a sane way. But understanding how all that works so that you can modify it to do what you want it to do is definitely a bulk of the initial part of this. Is just like, okay, I want to control a thing and I want it to move around an environment and I want to be able to control all of that. Okay, how do I do that? And then, you're adding, a new mechanic, and I'm adding like the idea of like, well, it gives you a level, but I want another level. Okay, well, how do I get to the other level? Like what is involved in making that happen? And there's a lot of moving parts.
I do like that if I change some things, my whole screen starts to shake because it starts to interpret. So I just made like the distance in collisions to 4, and let me just show you this. So can you see that the screen is shaking?
I can.
Oops. I hate
it's
that
like
it does. There.
colliding, not colliding over
So
and over and over
if
again.
I'm jumping in the air, it's fine. But as soon as I land, it's like earthquake.
It's
that's
having a hard
because-
time figuring out your contact.
And that's because over in this place, I changed this 1 to a 4. But like changing it to a 2 does not cause the screen shake. Oh, I guess it does. But it still collides with the walls and stuff, right? So, and he's still floating. All this stuff, and he's still floating. So there's some place where it's not working properly, and I don't know what it is.
Now, I mean, is this something where something like Claude would come in handy? Be like, hey, this is a
that's
problem.
probably exactly
Fix
what I'm
this.
going to do. Is I'm going to hop into Claude and be like, "Why flying?"
Make not float, please.
Yes. And it's probably something really stupid. So it's useful for like analyzing that kind of stuff. But I don't know how. But when I've tried to have it actually go in and do stuff, it doesn't do a great job. And it's probably just because there isn't a lot of material out there on these particular projects. Like it doesn't have huge communities the way like Unity would.
Yeah, I was just speaking of the built-ins. I was looking at something. Right. I just thought this was interesting because I think we were talking about where Defold came from, and if you go into the built-ins render default.render script, I think this is about as foundational as it gets in displaying a game in Defold. And if you look at the copyright at the very top, you can see where Defold started. It started by 2 people named Ragnar Svensson and Christian Murray, and then was probably purchased by King in 2014. They of the makers of Candy Crush and the like. And then in 2020, it became the Defold Foundation. So that's the lineage of Defold, interestingly.
Interesting. So it started in 2009. So, I mean, it's possible, now that we've actually gone in and started to play with it, that neither of these is the right answer, and we do need to go back and consider some of those other engines. I don't want to, because we eliminated those for reasons.
Yeah.
But
I
maybe-
think if we were to go from something like this to something like Godot or Unity or Unreal or something like that, we would have a lot of the same issues and troubles that we have in Defold, but even more, just because I think they are possibly more complicated and more.
They're definitely more complicated.
I think realizing once again the scope of this project, how big of a game, what we're not looking to make a 70-hour fully 3D RPG. We're looking to make something a little more bite-sized, but like something that would take, I think, you could get a good 5 to 10 hours out and be happy with your, game playing experience of our game. We could easily do that in something like this, but I'm wondering, I don't know, I'm wondering if doing the basic like kind of 2D move around thing is something I want to do the more I get into it. I don't know. It's still up in the air. I don't know. I'm still considering all options, but I think I'm curious, like from here on out, like what are the actions? What's the actionable thing to do from here on out for you?
I am not sure. I think I got to figure out what the heck is going on with these sprites so that I can actually understand them. Like I'm seeing what I'm doing, like what I'm looking at right now. It makes no sense to me how here, I'll show you. Because I don't know how to describe this in words. Maybe you can describe it for our viewers.
Sure.
If you look at this sprite, right to the left of the one below and to the left of the actual
the edge
thing,
of the ground. Mm-hmm.
how is it in the middle of another sprite?
Is this
right?
a hold down control or alt or kind of a keyboard modifier thing?
I don't know, because if I try to make that happen.
Oh wait, no. Go back to your sprite sheet. Go to the second row.
Oh,
Yeah, they didn't do anything weird. They just made a sprite that looks like that.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah.
That's why I missed it, because I was looking at all these other ones. Okay, so it's like go through the ground. Okay, so that makes sense. But like now I'm stuck in the how do I make a sprite go away? Where's my invisible sprite? Doesn't have a thing on it. There it is. It's just all these little things where it doesn't quite make sense to me. I get really stuck.
But I think it can. I mean, like I said, I spent a lot of time trying to figure out why my astronaut was not colliding with the gems that I have been creating with the factory. And then it ended up being that the astronaut, for some reason, did not have a collision object that was, talking to the gem collision object. And then as soon as I added one, it was like magic and everything worked perfectly. But the couple hours I spent just like, what am I missing here? Why is this not working? Like, I look at the other tutorial, when your ship runs into the star, it picks up the star, it deletes the game object, everything is awesome. Why is that not happening over here? And then you figure it out and you're like, oh, okay. And then when you have to do that again, it's not the 2 hour, what the heck? But
no,
it's like you got to go through these things. It's part of being knowledgeable of your tool. And these are tools that we are not super knowledgeable about yet.
But finding this information out seems to be more difficult than... I don't even know how to ask the question for some of these. Why is my sprite floating, I guess? .com?
Well, I mean, isn't that at that point you need to share the code with the LLM? Because it has to see it and analyze it. It can't just generalize.
Yeah, no, I have. I mean, I would just go into the directory. Here.
Here's my code. Here's my issue. Figure it out.
Fine, I'll install the update.
Which I gotta say is amazing that we can do that. It's still kind of amazing that you can do that.
Let's see what happens. So I come in here, I type Claude. I already have a Claude.md that kind of says what this is doing. Why is my sprite, my player sprite, seemingly floating above the ground? Let's see what it says.
This is my first time seeing Claude, so this is very interesting to me.
Yeah. Oh, I find Claude very useful, and it's very easy to use because I just talk to it the way I would use ChatGPT, but it has the context already for my project because it's right there, and it can write code in there, so it can make modifications.
Okay, so Matt tried to use Claude Code to fix the issue with his sprite floating above the ground. It said it found an issue, it fixed it, and it did not fix it. What the heck?
And so what I probably need to do is take a screenshot of it and then have it look at that.
Matt is just willy-nilly AIing his project.
Did 0 things.
And I'm surprised that it's not making any noticeable change, even the wrong one. What the heck?
Yeah, that is surprising, but I don't know why.
That almost makes me feel like it's not editing the actual thing you're running.
You would think. But that doesn't seem to be the case.
Huh. And I don't know what to say for that one. So do you think that you're going to spend more time in Love2D than Defold?
I don't know yet. I feel like Love2D is the place for me to get my hands around the concepts that I'm trying to do. Like what does this even look like? And then hopefully use Defold to do it well. Because I do not want to create levels in Love2D. That just seems like it's going to be a headache.
Yeah.
Because it's effectively going to be me saying, at this position, draw this tile. At this position, draw this tile. Like some sort of, basically a big map. It's 1 or 0 right now. It's either there's there's a tile drawn or there's not, is the way the code is currently set up. And then I just picked a tile that I wanted it to use. So that's what they're all the same tile.
Yeah, last time we talked, and I showed you that like isometric thing I had done in Love2D, and yeah, it had like a level object that grabbed PNGs basically and put them in a grid in the way that I wanted the level to be set up. And I have to say that in Defold, it doesn't treat it that way. It's not that manual, and instead you have the tile map that uses the tile source, and you say with a GUI, put this tile here and this tile there.
Much easier. That's why I want to go back to Defold for that.
Yeah.
But I find it so painful to get to the first stages. But also, I'm like going from a tutorial and then I'm trying to modify it. And maybe that's where I'm missing. Like maybe I need to just like, okay, here's my base set. Go.
Yeah, I agree that is the issue that I've kind of been, reiterating here and there about Defold, is that it has a much larger, higher level picture of your game that can be kind of overwhelming, and you spend a lot of time just tinkering with properties of stuff that you didn't maybe even think about when you were making the object, and it's hard to kind of grasp all that because it is a lot. Whereas from Love2D, it's a little more bottom up.
Yeah.
But I think for me, I think I'm going to keep going with the astronaut thing. I want to play around with actually making another level and figuring out how to move from one level to another, and also like messing around with tiles and new tiles and changing the tiles and and having them interact with the character, because right now the only interaction with tiles that the avatar does is with the collision of like you can't walk through a block.
Exactly. That was the collision object that I put in, was around its feet so that it would do that.
Right.
Because it was in there as the full size of the, and I didn't like the way it felt. It didn't like, it felt very
because
clunky.
it was very 2D, whereas yours with the feet has a little more
2.5D.
dimensionality to it.
Yeah. But also like the tiles are one size and then the astronaut's twice as big. And I'm like, no, just everything should just be the same. Like I want to go old school Nintendo. Everything is one tile big, right?
It does make things a lot easier,
size
for sure.
Rock. Except when you get to bosses, they're bigger. So I'm like, I don't know how you do that.
Well, they're just multiple, but then you always make them like they're twice as big and twice as wide, but not just twice as big, but same wide. Like you do the expand in both directions rather than just one or the other. Okay. So I think I'm going to keep going with this project and trying to push forward to the thing I originally said. You're going to keep going with your idea.
I think I'm going to try it. I'm going to stick with bouncing back and forth between the two engines and finding like how to do the thing I need to do. Because I think if I can figure out why this one's collision box is touching the ground, I can go back into Defold and fix the problem.
Yeah.
Okay, so for next time, in 2 weeks, we are going to basically same thing we tried to do this time, right?
Except actually do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I started.
Well, same.
So we're getting there. Oh, we're
getting there. It's just the tooling has a learning curve. It really does. And also just having the time. Honestly, I just don't always have like a couple hours where I can devote to actually using the tool and getting to know it, because I think I can't just dip in for like 5 minutes and do a thing. Like I need, much like when you're programming anything, you almost, it's like an average of like 10 to 15 minutes to like get in a flow, and then you can be in the flow and be productive. But you still need that time after you're in the flow to actually do anything useful.
Right.
So yeah, that I don't always have that time. So, but this is all about the journey. This is not a sprint by any means. And
it's interesting. I'm learning stuff for sure. I think once we can get over these initial hurdles of like just the basic stuff, we'll be able to start throwing. I just want to get to the point where I can slap together an idea real quick and see it and be like, yes, I like the way that plays, and then implement it well. But right now, even slapping together an idea is painful.
Yeah, I agree. I would like to get to the point where it feels as normal as like putting up a website which I do like without
normal,
even thinking.
That part normal for you, yes.
Yeah,
That's still hard for me. I need to redo my entire website right now.
Yeah. It just, I mean, because that's the thing I've been doing for decades now. And so I yes, I understand the basic concept of what it means to put up a website, but like the basic concept of what it means to create a functioning game that works and has all the basic, super simple, basic things like collision working is still not that. Yeah, I'm not at that level. So.
I think if I was 100% using squares, if that was the only, I think I would have zero problems with what I'm trying to do.
I think you just have to assume that everything, all the sprites you're using are just multiple squares that have some rounded edges that you can ignore.
Right, but that's what I'm trying to do is make it.
They're visually there, but they're not functionally there.
Exactly. All right, so keep working on the games, see where we get to, put stuff in, ideally, we'll put stuff in GitHub for each other a few days earlier so we can try them out, but let's not hold our breath. That's the goal. We'll see where we get. Halloween's next week, so I know I'm going to be busy.
Yeah, same.
So
I will be lucky to have just a little bit of time to even like mess around with this in the next couple weeks, but I will do what I can.
Yep.
So
carve out an hour here or there, and we'll make progress eventually.
Exactly. Well, once again, this is a marathon, not a sprint. We're making incremental. Much like any other project, we're just iterating constantly until we finally have something that we're proud of. And
that's what I really want. I want to get to the point where I have the very basics just there. And then I'm like, now I want to add this. But getting the very basics right now, I keep running into roadblocks. And that's where it's like, okay, why?
It's definitely a grind right now. It's not, I would not say it's all fun right now. It's just like, I know I need to do this. I need to figure out how to do basic stuff, and it's going to take time.
It's interesting, but I don't know that it's fun because it's frustrating also.
Yeah, it's not fluid yet. It's not like, oh yeah, I'm making a game. It's more like, wait, how do I do thing?
Yeah. Exactly. Cool.
All right. Excellent check-in. We will continue apace as we have prescribed. And until then, you can, if you want to listen to our back episodes, you can go to hackingthegrepson.com. We will continue to try to put out updates like this every other week, like we have been. The holidays are coming up, so who knows if that will change. Also, we have Advent of Code coming up soon. Although, breaking news, they're only doing 12 days this year.
Yep.
I have heard on the newsline.
This just in.
Yeah. Advent of Code creator Eric Wastel has announced to the internet community that he's been doing this for 10 years and he's tired and he doesn't want to make 25.
Very mixed reactions to this, by the way. Some people are like, "Oh, good, I only have time to do the first few anyway," and some people are like, "Oh man, I'm owed stuff for this free service that I've been using for 10 years."
Yeah, don't listen to those people. Eric Wastel is amazing. He has provided us 10 years of awesome content and community and blah 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 blah.
And we will do our usual, like, we'll take a break from the game stuff to do the Advent of Code for sure.
Yes,
because how can we not?
How can we not?
Well, we could have the same number of episodes that we usually do about it, and get more into detail about each problem.
We could.
Because there's only 12 this time.
Yeah. I am curious to see like how the overall difficulty will change when there's only 12
my
versus
biggest
25.
concern.
Yeah. You think they're just going to be like twice as hard or something?
Yes, that is my concern. I'm like, but if there's only 12, there's fewer things for me to think about. So hopefully, but it's going to get into the thing where you have to do the MCD stuff that I don't ever understand. The part where it gets like multiple common denominator or something like that, or whatever the one is that, like, there's certain problem sets that
lowest common multiple and those kinds of things.
Maybe it's lowest common multiple, LCM. That's what it was. And I'm like, I get it, but I don't. I always get lost there because I want to do it my way, the way that I think. I want to solve my problems that way. And those just become, go use this algorithm over there. And if I don't fully grok the algorithm, so we'll see. We'll see what that's going to look like this year. It'll be fun.
We'll see. But yeah, we will definitely take a break and give you our update on that because we will be taking a crack at it like we have for the past several years. But until we next check in with you, we now return you to your regularly scheduled lives already in progress.